just want to say from the bottom of my heart, I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody.
Best of luck to the Rowdy Gentlemen Fantasy Football Experience. Best of luck to the boys.
What a time, what a week, where to begin? Let's start with what a time to be alive. We've got the NFL through 6 weeks, only 1 day away from the start of week 7. Simultaneously, the NHL is back and the New York Rangers are off to a hot start and early favorites. All the meanwhile, playoff baseball has only just started to get fun, and hat tips to the New York Yankees on moving on to the next round tonight. Nestor Cortez, absolutely dominant. I mean, nearly perfect, some would say. But you know who wasn't perfect?
You did. You crazy son of a bitch, you did.
With a couple of dud performances out of Cameron Chait, Jeff Wilson, old man Randy Cobb, and them boys from Las Vegas riding the bye bench, Letfeld Cook comes into the kitchen and whips up just the two of us into his father's finest Israeli chop stewy dish. We're gonna do another round of hat tips here to Jordan and all the boys over at Just the Two of Us for making it this far undefeated. That's no easy feat. And cheers to David Feldman and the boys over at Letfeld Cook for not letting Jordan get this too far ahead. Which actually helps me segue into what I mentioned last week. We're going to start seeing some changes within the standings with those running away and those falling behind, alongside Letfeld Cook not allowing just the two of us to expand his games ahead margin. The Ace of Spades, Team Nelly, and Team Nick all collectively say, no thanks. We're not going to be the team that crumbles and gets left behind. All three clubs pulling away with their second wins of the campaign. After a slow start to the season, Kyler the Creator goes back-to-back after taking down the red-hot Ted Jones. Jonathan Taylor Ham pulls away from the Brady Bunch in a match that was much closer and more thrilling than what the final box score is reflecting. I'll tell you, that Alan Diggs handcuff has just been lights out. Nervous to see how this pork roll turns out next week with the meat and potatoes out on bye. Luxburger finds their way back into the win column after Team Larry hits rock bottom.
Where is this, SpongeBob?
Rock bottom? It sure is weird around here. Kinda different. Even the soil looks different.
Would you mind putting me down?
Bob, I don't like it here. It's dark and scary. I don't want to be here. I want to go home. Look!
That's right, folks. Could you believe it? Team Larry comes out of week 6 posting a league historical low, 53.42. There have been players such as Alvin Kamara who have put up more points out of a single position than Team Larry did in week 6 with his entire starting roster. Now, before we get any further into the losers side of things, I'd like to take this opportunity to revisit the standings after week 6. Very quickly, you can see why Letfeld Cook, the Ace of Spades, Team Nelly, and Team Nick all had important wins this past week, keeping the standings tight and the competition high. I couldn't be more honored and proud to see the level of competition that we're seeing in the League of Rowdy Gentlemen this year. After taking more of a deeper dig through the standings after 6 weeks, I'd like to point out a couple of interesting facts and tidbits that I noticed. In a little bit of a side-by-side comparison, after adding up the total wins between the North and the South, I was surprised to find that both conferences actually have a total of 21 wins each. Now, despite having the same total of wins between both conferences, the same cannot be said regarding points for. Through 6 weeks of play, the North Conference is currently outscoring the South Conference 4,737 to 4,564 by a difference of 173 points in favor of the North. Now, before we move along, I'd also like to shout out Dave Cox and the Ace of Spades, no longer with the lowest playoff percentage. Welcome, crab cakes in football, with 16% chances at making the postseason compared to the Ace of Spades' 19%, which is only a short distance behind Team Larry's 23%. As we move into the losers list, everybody outside of the Brady Bunch should be ashamed of themselves. Now, don't get it twisted. Just because I'm proud of how tight the standings are in the league, the level of competition throughout the entire league from top to bottom, absolutely zero excuse for the disasters that we saw this weekend. Now, as we move on into the losers list, and let me tell you, outside of the Brady Bunch, it was a tough week. I know that everybody has down weeks, myself included, but golly, this looked like a season of American Horror Story, for crying out loud. Standing tall and proud at the top of this week's losers list is going to be E-Hafe and the Brady Bunch. Now, here's a guy who's earned himself an isolated shout out among the losers list. It's unfortunate because this is the second or third time now that the Brady Bunch finds himself on the short end of the stick in close matchups. However, this is a team that's not going anywhere. I don't think they have anything to worry about. Embarrassing, concerning, frightening. Let's get it together. I'll see you here next week. On to Chris Hansen.
Dateline?
Dateline what? To catch a predator.
Sir, I'm not a really predator, sir, but I'm just...
You're not a real predator.
No, sir.
Just a pretend predator.
No, I'm just curious, sir.
A curious predator. Hard time finding the place, or?
No.
Why don't you have a seat on that stool for me, please? Please, right there.
Screen name Jungle Mania 20050.